Welcome to the Golf Improvement Podcast, episode 171.
Welcome to the podcast for golf lovers and enthusiasts who are looking to take their games to new heights. Dedicated to custom club fitting, short game improvement, and effective practice to improve your golf game. This is the Golf Improvement Podcast with your host, Tony Wright.
Hello, this is Tony Wright from Game Improvement Golf in Oak Ridge, Tennessee with the Golf Improvement Podcast, dedicated to sharing useful information on professional club fitting, short game improvement, and effective practice techniques. I create exceptional golf clubs. You shoot lower scores. A few weeks ago, I looked at Tom Sterner's website to see what was new with his offerings. Tom is the founder of the Practicing Mind Institute, and I've done a number of podcast interviews with him in the past. I found a gem of an audio course that's now available from him, the Practicing Mind Short Course. He allowed me to let you listen to the last chapter of this course. It's about a minute and a half, and here it is.
Session 8. Your learning begins. As you begin to work with all of this, understand that this is not a race. There is an ancient saying that says, attachment to this or that is just another form of misery. If you say to yourself, when I reach a certain level of proficiency at present moment functioning, then I can be happy, you have missed the point. What you have done has become attached to some place out in front of you, and pulled yourself out of the process of becoming better at functioning in the present moment. Understand that as you begin to work at all of this, you are breaking a lifelong habit of behavior, years of operating in a state of distraction. As long as you remain aware that your goal is to be here and now, even if you fall out of that, your awareness gives you the opportunity to pull yourself back into the present. And that means that you are successful. You are repeating a process with the intention of accomplishing something specific. Such are the qualities of the practicing mind, being fully engaged, and present moment functioning.
Well, get ready to enjoy a really great interview with Tom Sterner, founder of the Practicing Mind Institute.
www.gameimprovementgolf.com.
Hello, this is Tony Wright with episode 171 of the Golf Improvement Podcast. And I'm delighted to welcome back Tom Sterner, founder of the Practicing Mind Institute and author of The Practicing Mind and Fully Engaged. But I recently went to Tom's website and found his new mini audio course, 7 mini sessions to change your life. I'm actually going to try to get some of my Rome State junior college players to subscribe to this, to listen to it, Tom. I think there's some great things in it. But I've listened to it 3 times now, and it's really excellent. So welcome back, Tom, and it's great to get to talk with you.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much for having me back.
Well, gosh, it's been 2 years since we did an interview. Share a little bit about how things have been going in your life in the past 2 years. I know there's a couple tough things, but overall, how things have been going.
Things have been going very well. We have actually are getting ready to launch a whole new website design, which is much more up to date, much more streamlined, because right now I have 3 websites that are kind of just going back through history. And when I started out initially, it was the Practicing Mind because that was all that I had. And then that morphed into the Practicing Mind Institute, and then finally just tomsterner.com. And so I can't find stuff on my websites. I mean, it's just too complicated. So what we've done is we've basically created one website that encompasses everything. It's much more streamlined, and that's getting ready to launch. And, regarding the course that you were talking about, I'm actually producing now a much more sophisticated course. It's a video course and will be longer. It will be available on Teachable, and that will be something that people will be able to get to through the website. So that is happening. And I will also be releasing a podcast very shortly.
Wow.
Recording the episodes now. So things, yes, have been doing very well. I'm working on the third book, which the first was The Practicing Mind, and then Fully Engaged Using the Practicing Mind in Your Daily Life. And now I'm working on a third book, which will basically wrap up what I consider the trilogy. This is it's a journey that I've been on since my teen years, and I've been studying everything from Eastern thought to neuroscience and sports psychology for decades. And I have really become interested in, because the information has become so documented through empirical science, the relationship between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. And keep in mind, these are just terms that we use. We just labels. We're talking about one entity, which is our mind, but it's just different aspects of that entity and how they integrate with each other. And if you don't understand it, then you are basically being used as opposed to you using them. So I've been spending a lot of time researching that in the last 2 years, and that's a lot of what's going to be written about in the third book.
That's pretty neat. Well, like I said, I listened to the audio course and I've really enjoyed it and learned some things from it. Why did you decide to create it? And what is there a specific audience you're looking at with it, or?
No, my audience has just from my work. I have worked with everything from, I would say, probably the youngest I've worked with is maybe junior high school, all the way through retired CEOs, and pretty much in every demographic. I mean, I've worked with obviously a lot of golf athletes. I was a keynote speaker in 2019 at the Golf Coaches of America convention in Las Vegas. And I did a program there called 5% Thinking. And the reason it was called that is because that the studies show that 95% of the day, we're really just running programs. In other words, we're not consciously thinking. It's just that because we live in that world all the time, and we've been in that world since we were children, it feels normal, and we really are under an illusion that we are in charge, when actually our subconscious mind is just responding to stimulus outside of us. And until you get to a point where you can recognize what it feels like to be outside of the thoughts that your mind is creating in reaction to what is going on around you, you can't control it. And this is really important in a situation, well, in life in general, because it determines whether you're feeling anxious, whether you're happy, whether you're feeling angry. You can, when you go into a situation that is unfamiliar or familiar, what happens is that your subconscious mind looks at the stimulus and says, it's like a Google search, what is our response to this stimulus? And then it goes and gets it, and it plays it out, and you're in it. It's like a play that happens, and you're the main actor in it. And you're not the director. So you don't make a choice as, this is not the reaction that I want to have in this situation. You just go along with it. It happens in microseconds. And it's happening all day long. Something happens in front of your eyes, something happens and you hear it. And the subconscious says, well, we have to, what is our reaction to this? And if it doesn't know the exact reaction, it will extrapolate. It will look at, 50 situations that are similar and pull something out like that. And, why is this important? And this is getting to why, I originally did that program, was to try to get people to understand that this is where we live. You have a choice. You can live in your thoughts, or you can be the observer of your thoughts. If you're the observer of your thoughts, then you have the opportunity to use your mind to serve you, as opposed to being a puppet of, your mind's interpretation of the situation.
Yeah. And, it really leads into the next question that I posed to you. Earlier, you said early on in the course, you note that our thoughts are created by our minds without our permission. And when I read the without our permission, I was thinking, oh gosh, it's funny, I never really thought about that concept. I mean, it sort of makes sense once you do. And I think you talked about that a little bit, but you have some principles of awareness training in the book and the course that you talk about. Maybe share a little bit about some of the basics of those.
Sure. Well, thought awareness training is just a phrase that I coined to make it more clear as to what we're trying to accomplish in this practice. And that is, we're trying to become the observer of the thoughts and to notice that our mind thinks without our permission. The mind is a problem-solving machine, and it's a very good one. And if you don't give it a problem to solve, it gets bored very easily. It'll just go looking for one.
Yeah.
Which is what it's doing most of the time. Now, I have done some things, just to digress for a second. I've done some things with young people where I've said, look, we're going to sit here for 2 minutes and close our eyes, and I want you to stop thinking. And so I put a timer on, and they sit there for 2 minutes. And then when the timer goes off, they're all chattering away. Like I couldn't do it. I was in the cafeteria. I was thinking about something I was going to do on the weekend, etc. And I tell them that's right. I said, now let's look at what's happening there. You're sitting there and telling your mind, just follow my breath, or just repeat this phrase over and over again. And your mind is saying, no, I'm not going to do that. It's boring. I think I'll go visit this problem, or think about something I said last week, or worry about something that's coming up next class. And you can't stop it. And if you can't stop it, then who is really in charge? Because it's not you. And this is where we live all the time. We just don't pay attention to it. So thought awareness training is learning to see what it feels like to be the observer of the thought, instead of living in the emotional content of the behavior that the thought creates. So thought awareness training, you can do it one of two ways, and there's many ways to meditate. I tell people, we don't really want a guided meditation here, because guided meditations, there's nothing wrong with them. In fact, they're very good for particular situations. But what we're really looking for is to notice what the mind is doing when we are giving it a task. In a guided meditation, you're being asked to think and process, because somebody's saying, now I want you to focus on your feet, and I want you to feel this relaxation moving up. Well, all of that is asking you to think. And we don't want to be thinking. What we want to do is just give our mind a single task. It really could be anything, but the things that have been proven over thousands of years to work are just sitting and watching your body breathe, or giving your mind a one task, in the sense of a phrase, I am still, I am quiet. It really doesn't matter. I would discourage a long sentence, but just a couple of words. And when you do that, initially what happens is it sounds, the mechanics are deceivingly easy. It sounds like, well, I know I can do that. And you'll sit there and you'll either be just watching your body breathe or saying your phrase. And within a very short period of time, it could be 15 seconds, your mind will just say, look, this is too easy and it's boring, so I'm just going to go off. And you'll just go with it. You won't even notice you're going with it. And then you will have this moment where you wake up and you realize that you're really not even noticing your body breathing anymore, or you're not noticing the phrase anymore. You're thinking about a conversation you're going to have, or who knows what. You're just someplace other than that particular practice. And when that happens, that's when really all the magic happens. And this is where people get really derailed. The magic is that when you notice that your mind is not doing what you're asking it to, that's when you are not in your mind. You're separate from your mind, and you're watching to see what the mind is doing. And then when you call the mind back and you say, it's like a toddler in a toy store, and you're just directing it, no, we're walking down this aisle, we're not going to grab that toy and that toy, whatever. You pull the mind back. And in that instant, your willpower is strengthened, and you're very anchored in the observer. So people, where they get derailed is they think that because they have this session where they're meditating or doing this thought awareness training for 10 minutes a day, they think they're really bad at it because they're chasing their mind all the time. But the truth is that you couldn't be chasing your mind if you weren't noticing what your mind was doing. So that's really the trap that people fall into. So the fact that you feel like, sometimes it just depends on where you are in your life and in your day. Some sessions, I've studied meditation with all different people, different methods of meditation. This is the stuff that I use. And I can tell you that even after 40 some years of meditating, I still have some sessions where my mind is it's just running all the time and I'm chasing it all the time. And then there's other times where it's very placid and it's not a very difficult session. And, but what this practice does, so you can't do it wrong and you can't be bad at it. You're just experiencing different aspects of the practice. Sometimes it's busy, sometimes it's more work, sometimes it's not. But what this does for you is when you are in a situation during the day, you actually begin to get ahead of your thoughts because you notice the feeling that the thought is giving you. I'm feeling uncomfortable. That means that my subconscious is pulling up a thought, a reaction that is making me feel this way. What is that thought? See, you can't have that conversation if you're in the emotional content. You're just noticing it. And it really starts to give you this power in every situation, whether it's, I don't feel like I'm not disciplined, I'm not disciplined. I don't feel like doing this. That is a reaction and a thought. It's not something it's not you. It's just a thought that your subconscious mind, you have trained it to do that. This is the thing, we practice these things that we ingrain into our subconscious mind. We practice them thousands and thousands of times. That's why they're so effortless, because we're really good at them. And all we're really looking to do is change the reaction that our subconscious mind enacts when a certain stimulus happens so that it's more what we want it to do. We want to be the conscious choice maker here. We don't want to be the puppet of stuff that we've stuck on the hard drive over our life. And that's really what has happened is, and why does this even happen in the first place? I mean, why aren't we designed to work differently? Well, it's a protective device. And I don't know that we could function if we didn't have this. If you look at situations like, once your mind learns how to walk, it doesn't have to figure out how to walk every time you try to walk. It just knows how to do it. So it just takes care of it in the background. When somebody, if a car swerves towards you, you jump out of the way. You don't have to go through all this calculations and thoughts and all these things of what should I do here? It just happens like that. So it's something that goes way, way back in our development. And we know that the subconscious mind is literally 1,000,000 times faster than the conscious mind. And it looks for stuff that we repeat because it says, well, look, we only have so much cognitive ability to do tasks, to learn skills. If we just take golf, for example, it takes a certain amount of cognitive ability to swing the golf club. So when you start out with this, it takes all of your cognitive ability to pay attention because you're trying to process all this information. As you get more proficient at it, this is the part that just frustrates golfers is it becomes so automatic because you have habitualized certain swing moves. And now if you want to change them, you have to break that habit because what is the subconscious mind doing? It's looking at what you do over and over again. And it says to itself, well, because they're repeating this, it makes sense for me to habitualize it. Because if I habitualize it, it takes it out of RAM. And now the computer has more RAM to work with for a task that it's learning for the first time. So when it takes it out of RAM, now it's on the hard drive and it's just an automatic response, which is great, especially if your golf swing is working. But if it isn't working, now you're trying to break this swing habit that you having practiced over and over again and made feel natural. But it's the same thing in life. If a certain situation makes you angry or makes you sad or makes you anxious, that is a reaction to that you've done over and over again. And that's the reason why it flows so effortlessly. And so if you want to change that, the only way you can change it is to get outside of the cycle. Once you get outside of the cycle, now all of a sudden you are the master of the mind. Or you have the opportunity to be the master of the mind, and you're not just the slave of the mind.
Yeah. And, that really feeds into and we talked about this in one of the past, interviews. I mean, one of the really key elements of that part is sort of the do, observe, correct approach. And And, the sort of next two questions, there were things I did yesterday when I was with some of the junior college kids, because he was practicing some putting drills. One of the guys was doing that. And I said, okay, you did it. Now, what happened when you didn't achieve what you wanted? And what are you going to change? I mean, it's so fundamental to any learning process, isn't it? The do, observe, correct cycle.
Yes, and I think that the main message of do, observe, correct is non-judgment. Judging, we have to analyze. Analyze tells us, well, the ball didn't go in the hole. What did it do? It went to the left, it went to the right, it had too much speed on it. I putted through the break, whatever that is, if you're talking about golf. But saying, I stink at this, now you've gone into this, what you've done is you've started to install this feeling about your performance that has nothing to do with getting the putt to drop on the next putt. In fact, it inhibits your ability. It degrades your performance. It occupies that feeling, and that emotion begins to occupy a certain amount of your cognitive decision-making, because it has to in order for it to be running in the RAM. And so now you have access to less of your cognitive abilities to be able to read the putt. And I probably talked about this on the last one, but I think it's a good example. So in case there's somebody here that didn't hear that, I did a clinic one time. I've done, numerous golf clinics, and there was a kid he had actually won the club championship, which was something, because he was a high school senior and he was playing against the men in the club. So the kid was obviously very good. And so he posed this question to me. And he said, let me give you a scenario. He said, I'm on the 18th hole and it's a par 3. No, I'm sorry, it was a par 4. And he said, I have a choice. He said, I can try to cut off fairway by carrying water. He said, if I do that, it's going to give me the best chance for a birdie. He said, now I've got this 1-stroke lead. Should I take the risk? So that was his question. And I said, well, I said, from a golfing strategy standpoint, there's a whole lot to that question. I said, for one, who is 1 stroke behind you? Is he playing next to you, or is he 9 holes back and still has 9 holes to play? I said, there's a lot of things you'd have to ask yourself to make that decision. I said, but I think what's really important in this particular scenario that you've given me is the word risk. I said, what did you say? Should I take the risk? I said, so what you've actually done is you've told your subconscious mind, if you decide to carry the water, you've told your subconscious mind, go get me the swing mechanics that I exhibit when I feel like I'm taking a risk. I said, that's what you've done.
That's not a very good thing, is it?
No, never is. And the subconscious mind, which doesn't have a sense of humor, and it doesn't know, it's not going to look at that and go, well, this isn't really what you want. It's going to give you what you're asking for, and it's going to go get that swing. I said, now, if I were to put you out in the fairway, and let's just say you were 175 yards, I said, what would that be for you? Like a 6-iron, 7-iron? He goes, yeah, well, probably a 7-iron. I said, okay, let's just say you have no traps to carry. It's just a straight in shot. I said, does that make you feel like you're taking a risk? He said, no, that's a no-brainer. I can do it all day long. I said, that's what you want. That's the swing you want. So you need to give that message to the subconscious mind. I said, but you can't do that if you're letting your mind dictate what is going on. So I said, right there, it felt completely normal for you to say, okay, I'll take the risk. And you don't feel like you're doing anything wrong when you say that, but your subconscious is going to be very obedient with that. And it's going to give you the mechanics that are not, you're going to lose timing, tempo, all those types of things that happen when you interpret something. Interpretation creates your experience. When you interpret this as a risk, you're going to get that swing. And it's very simple. So I said, you have to be able to notice what your mind is doing so that you have the opportunity to say, that's not the thought I want here. And this is a skill, Tony. It's all it is. It's a skill. It's just like the golf swing. It's a skill. Once you learn the mechanics, when you practice it over and over again, it becomes more of who you are and how you operate in situations. You don't have to, when you first start out playing golf, you're just trying to get the ball up in the air and get it to go somewhere in the direction that you're trying to go. But after a while, you don't worry about
duffing the ball. I mean, you're going to hit the ball down the fairway. You might not hit the shot shape you want. You might try to cut it and it doesn't cut very much, or you might try to draw it, or you might occasionally hit a snap hook or something. But in general, you're past that point as far as, getting the ball up. This is what skill is. You start out with no skill, and then you move on this line of mastery. And in order, you want to be in charge of your interpretation of that experience of mastery. It can be something that you dread, and something where you actually fight yourself and slow yourself down because of your thought process. Or it can be something where it's a flow and you enjoy the process of doing it. And this is why, like I said, the thought awareness training is absolutely everything. If you cannot do any of this stuff if you are in your thoughts, you just can't. So, and this is why when I've talked to, golfers, college golfers, and I said, look, this is empirical science. This stuff is out there. We know it. This is how you perform at your highest level. You can use it or not. If you don't use it, you're going to get beat by the people who are. That's just it's a simple performance thing. This is what you have to do. You have to practice this just like you practice your irons.
Just like putting, just like short game, just like
right. It's part of the game. It's part of being competitive. And if you become proficient at it, you will use it everywhere. You'll use it in your life. You will use it when you're nervous about a final exam. You will use it in everything you do. You'll use it when you go for an interview. It will be part of everything that you do. And that's why I said in the beginning that I have worked with young people. I have worked with people on the autism spectrum. I have worked with, CEOs that have to make decisions and they're nervous about them, but they don't want the people underneath of them knowing they're nervous. I mean, I've really worked with everybody, and they have used it in every circumstance that I can think of. I've worked with surgeons. I've worked with psychiatrists. All these people, the mechanics of this and the need for it is the same. If you are in your thoughts during the day, which is how we are raised to be, then you are not in control. You are basically just running programs during the day, and we can change it. And this is just all part of mental performance. This is what we've learned.
Yeah. I mentioned, I was with some of the guys, the junior college guys I coached yesterday, and we had this little drill, a speed drill, right? And it was a challenging one, and he wanted to accomplish it. But, when he didn't accomplish it, the goal, right? He said, I really suck, right? And it gets back to your concept of the goal as a rudder to steer your efforts and not a reminder of what you accomplished, right? It's just.
That's right. And the goal is
making goals be that way is so powerful rather than I got to get there.
Well, the thing is, when you get there, your point of relativity is going to change. So, for example, we're always with any skill, we're up against our threshold. I mean, that is just where it is. When we start out, we're up against the threshold. Our skill level is here. It's way back here. And then as we move along and our skill level increases, our threshold is always, what is our skill level now? So to give you more of an analogy on that, it's one that I use, often is somebody who goes to take piano lessons, and they've never had a piano lesson. They've never had a music lesson. So on the very first day, the teacher, they know nothing. They're up against their threshold. They know absolutely nothing. And the teacher says, okay, look, here's a manuscript. It's got notes on it. This is a C, this is a G, this is a B. This is where it is on the paper. This is where it is on the keyboard. This is the key you push when you see that note. That's your threshold right then. And how does that feel? It feels like a struggle because you're up against your threshold. Now let's visit you, 5 years down the road, and you're playing Mozart. Well, that's not your struggle anymore. What you used to think was what used to be your threshold is no longer your threshold. You're now trying to play something that is at a new threshold because it's moving with you with your skill level. And that's why, you watch a professional golf tournament and these guys are irritated with themselves because they didn't land the ball on the left 3 feet of the quadrant on the right of the green. I mean, that's their threshold. For the average golfer, they're just trying to advance the ball and hit the green, in regulation. That's their threshold. But what it feels like inside is it's difficult. And those are just words that we use to describe data that's coming into us. All the struggle, that feeling you feel, all that's telling you is you haven't mastered this, and you can't master it unless you're doing it. So here we are. Like, so let's just do it and
Let's
work at
do it,
mastering.
right? Let's
Yeah.
just keep after it.
And the rest of it, I stink and all that stuff, all it does is degrade your performance. It has nothing to do with improving. It's your thing. It has nothing to do with getting the putt to drop on the next hole. And I see this all the time, especially, when I've caddied for, junior golfers and all. They're talking about a putt they missed 3 holes ago, and they hit their drive out of the fairway. It's like, that thing is just as far in the past as the Roman Empire. Let's work with where we are right now. Let's be looking at the lay of the land. Let's be paying attention to the wind. Let's have, some idea of what is going on inside of us right now. Are we having thoughts? Is our mind, our subconscious producing thoughts that are going to take us down the wrong road and degrade our performance? Let's get that under control. You can't do anything about the putt that you missed 3 holes ago. And the joy, this is the rudder. The rudder, what is your goal? Your goal is to be in the present moment, in the process of playing golf. And when you can do that, then you've really mastered it, because that's when you're going to perform at your highest level. The fact that you had a bad round doesn't mean anything. If you're having a bad round, that's your opportunity to learn to deal with a bad round, because you're going to have bad rounds, just like you're going to have days in life that are difficult. So when that happens, for me, it's like, hey, this is when the fun starts. I'm having a bad round. Can I turn this around? Forget about my score at the end of the thing. Can I turn my swing around? Can I find my tempo? Can I get my mind to calm down? Can I start striping the ball? Like, that's my challenge now. And when I hit a bad shot, even when I said that to myself, then I hit an errant shot on the next swing. It's like, now my goal is, can I not let that impact my next swing? And it just keeps, and when your mind is there, you're outside of your thoughts. You're watching your reaction, and you have the privilege of choice as to how you process the situation. When you're not there and you're going, man, I really stink. Well, you're just a slave of whatever reactions your subconscious is pushing out.
Well, and I told you when I sent you questions, I felt like that, like I was in that other place. And I had this funny term, right? I called it the anti-zone. I mean, everybody wants to talk about being in the zone, right? But in some ways, I think you can get into that. It's just so totally opposite of it, where you're not thinking about, okay, what happened and what do I do, and do observe correct, and finding a way to learn something from it. Now, tomorrow, for example, I'm going out. I know there's some things about the irons I just built for myself that I need to make some corrections to, right? And I've got about 4 or 5 things I'm going to evaluate about it. But that's fun.
It is fun, and the thing about golf, to use that as an example, is it's such a microcosm of life. I mean, you can go out on a single hole and experience a whole spectrum of emotions. And it's crazy how you get over a putt and you're so nervous and you're like, it really doesn't matter in my life if I miss this putt. But yet the experience that you are having is, like, if this is going to make you break 80 for the first time or something, it's amazing how that plays with your head. And so it's really to me, it's such a great opportunity to test yourself and to put yourself in situations where, you can work at at really developing the skill. Because like I said, the things you have mastered, you don't think about because they're effortless. When you feel like you're struggling, that's just data telling you you're in the process of mastering something. I remember years ago when I was playing a lot and I was playing in tournaments and I was playing well. It certainly isn't where I'm at now. But when I play now, I don't even keep score. I just want to hit golf shots. But when I played very seriously, I got invited to go out, and it was a kind of a mess. The golf course was 100 miles away, and I had to pick up the guy that I was going to play with, and we ran out. We were running up to the first tee, to make our tee time, and there was 2 guys there that were pretty good golfers, and so, the whole thing, I mean, I had no time to warm up or anything. It was just like you ran up, pulled your driver out. So the first drive I hit this was the time I was a single digit handicap at the time. I hit my drive into the driving range and I had to go get my ball. So I ran out there, I didn't want to get hit, so I ran out there with like a 5-iron and I just swiped at it to get it back into play, and then I hit it over the green, and it was like I was so out of sync mentally and physically. And the second hole, I played just as bad. I cut my drive, which I just don't do. I usually play with a draw. I cut it out of the fairway. And walking down to the, my reaction to that was embarrassment, which is what we all get into. I didn't know these guys, and I'm thinking these guys are thinking, oh, it's going to be a long day, because they're thinking I'm going to be all over the place. And this is my point. Walking to that ball, I had a conversation with myself, and I said, I've proven to myself I'm a pretty good player, and this is not who I am. I need to reboot. And so I just kind of started some breathing things, and when I got to my ball, I put it on the green, and I think I made a birdie, and then I beat both of those guys, the rest of the day. And but the thing was, I turned it around. It could have gone really south, and I could have just played worse and worse and worse, and I could have had a terrible round. But to me, it was the understanding that if I can hit one good shot, I can hit a lot of good shots. This is not who I am, and I have to make a choice here. And my choice is to play better. And how am I going to do that? It's going to be to stop judging everything that I'm doing so far. It doesn't matter what they think of me. They don't know me. I'm never going to see these guys again. I know I have a swing that will work. I've proved it over and over again. So I need to go within myself and get control of what's going on inside. The rest of it will take care of itself. And this is, something that, like I said, I couldn't have, the fact that I was able to turn that around and play so well, the game became really fun, as it always is when you're playing well. But what meant more to me was the fact that I turned it around. And that's what I'm saying. You can't get that experience. You can't get that opportunity unless you're playing badly. So that's when you are playing badly.
That's right.
That's when you have the opportunity to see if you can turn it around. And if you let go of I'm not going to break 80 today, or whatever your scoring goal is. Because in golf, the thing we do wrong is we always compare our round to our lowest round. I don't know why we do that, but if you shoot a 75 one day, but you're usually shooting in the mid 80s. Now, every time you go out, even if you shoot a low, like an 83, you're like, because you're comparing it to that 75 that you shot, one time before, because now you can do that. So there's so many mental challenges in golf. But like I said, when you're playing badly, that's when you have an opportunity to really turn it around inside, emotionally and mentally. And that's a skill that you can use anywhere in your life, no matter how old you are and no matter what the circumstances. It's really what puts you in control of the situation, rather than the situation being in control. Because in that moment, what is happening when you hit the bad shot? Your subconscious mind is going, oh, what is our reaction for that? Oh, it's this. And then it plays it, and then you're in it, and the whole thing just keeps going. So it's, that's why I say, when you can get outside of that and be the observer of your thoughts and the noticer. You notice these thoughts are serving me, these thoughts aren't serving me. And that's what that willpower does. When you just keep pulling your mind back and pulling it back on the task and saying, no, you're not going there. You're not going to think about that. You're going to do what I'm telling you to do. How does that serve you in a difficult situation? We're using golf, but we could use anything. But when you start playing poorly, and that feeling of, I'm not really good, I don't know what's off, my tempo's off, you start doubting yourself. Then you go, that doubt, that feeling of doubt, that is just the reaction of my subconscious mind. It's all it knows to get, because I haven't given it anything else. So I'm going to give it something else. I'm going to start practicing that bad shot is nothing. It's just, it takes an incredible amount of timing to hit a good golf shot. It actually takes an incredible amount of timing to hit a bad shot. I mean, you got to do a lot of things to do that, to hit a bad golf shot. There's a lot of skill in that, and so, it's just your brain, the thought, the swing happens in your mind first before it comes out of your body. It always happens in your mind first. So you have to have control of what's going on in your mind if you want to play well. And that, again, that's just, a microcosm of life. You have to, if you're not in control of what your mind's doing, you're just easily manipulated.
Well, people that get to go through already your little mini sessions are going to learn a lot of that, and there's a lot of really neat things coming, I'm sure, from you. It was fun again today to get to talk with you. The last thing I talked about talking about that you already did, learning to master situations. It's if you can get to that point and do some of the meditation type skills you talk about and all the things in your little course, it's almost like a little superpower for golfers if they can do that, right? Because how many of them are really able to do it?
Well, that's true. And this is where, this stuff is so dependable. It really comes down to, I think it was Tom Kite one time. I saw him, he said, most professionals, he goes and high and low handicap. He said, once you get to a certain level with the golf swing, after that, it's about 90% your mind. I mean, this is why there's been so much money invested in figuring out how the mind works, because we know what a perfect golf swing looks like. I mean, there's been so much study with that. They're not all identical, but we know how to execute a dependable golf swing. And if we can teach the mechanics of somebody, why can't they do it every time they swing the club? Because, it's because the mind is what is producing the swing, and the mind is not so easy to be in control of. So, but we have to understand, in order to be able to at least work at that, we have to understand, well, how does the mind work? If we don't understand how the mind works, then we have no hope of controlling it to our benefit.
Yeah. Well, you have a lot of great information on your site and new things coming that are helping people that way. Hey, I look forward to talking with you again when your new courses are
absolutely.
And it's always a delight, and I always learn something. So, listeners, go to Tom Sterner's website, look for the mini sessions, look for a lot more coming. And we worked through a little thing this morning too.
That's right. We didn't get upset.
That's how it goes. We just kept working at it until we figured it out. So there you go. Tom, thanks a lot. I appreciate it today.
You bet, Tony. Always a pleasure.
The Golf Improvement Podcast is sponsored by Tony Wright and Game Improvement Golf. Tony creates exceptional golf clubs. You shoot lower scores.
Well, Tom, thanks for creating this wonderful training audio course for golfers and anyone who wants to improve their ability to get better at anything that they do. As I noted, I've listened to the audio course 3 times now, and I know I'm going to listen to it more in the future. I put a link in the show notes to Tom's website. Consider accessing his Practicing Minds short course, and also look there in the future for new and valuable resources from Tom Sterner. As you can probably tell a little bit, I'm still a bit in the learning mode of using my new podcast recording equipment. And in fact, I'm adding a few more bells and whistles in the very near future to make the audio sound even better. So hang in with me, but it's really going to get a lot better. I'm looking forward to all the new interviews that I'm going to record. My shout out today is to PGA professional and putting guru Biv Wadden with the Wadden Golf Academy. Recently, Biv created a 30-minute video available on the Flat Stick Academy website on what's important in a putting stroke for a golfer to create great speed and distance control. He's done a lot of really valuable work in that area. Check out many of the putting improvement resources on his website. I've put a link in the show notes. Good going, Biv. Well, that's it for today. It's been a few years since I talked with Dan Connolly, creator of the True Links Technology golf club length fitting process. Recently, he helped me help a golfer who needed some longer golf clubs and some adjustments that are a little out of the ordinary. I look forward to you hearing from Dan in 2 weeks. Take care and stay safe.
Game Improvement Golf, your source of information and inspiration to become an exceptional golfer now. www.gameimprovementgolf.com